Welcome, my friends. I'm thrilled to say we have Peter Surridge here for our Lifejoy Friends interview. We all call him Sir Pete because he's grand, he's great, and he's glorious, and we're thrilled to talk to him today. Hi, Pete.
Hello. You always call me Sir Pete, and you know what? Everybody's calling me Sir Pete now. Even my son asked me, "Why do they call you Sir Pete?"
That's the rules now. It is the fact.
I have no answer. I just say Dr. Rebecca.
You're lovely. Now, we're going to talk about joy and inspiration and fortitude really today. So tell us a bit about yourself.
I'll say my name is Peter Surridge. I run my own business called Ridgetek Web Solutions. I live in Prudhoe, and I just had a lockdown 50th birthday, so I'm getting old. I live here with my son, just the two of us, who I adopted getting on for 10 years ago now. And we moved back I lived in Cheshire and moved back to Prudhoe, where I grew up about 5 years ago. So we're sort of not native Northeast. People get very confused by my accent, so your listeners may think, where on earth is he from? And no one can ever work it out because I have a mix of Southern. I was born in Yorkshire, lived in the Northeast, lived in Cheshire, so nobody can work out where I came from.
Well, you're a lovely amalgam.
Exactly. I do my best.
Lovely, lovely. And tell us about it's very inspiring what you've done. Tell us about your journey with JP.
My journey with JP, well, it all started back in 2010, and I'd recently broken up from a relationship, and I was approaching being my 40th birthday, and was thinking about what to do, whether I wanted a family or not. It got to that stage of life where, do I want a family? And being the impulsive sort of person, I decided to go down the adoption route by myself, which was quite unusual at the time. I was the first single male adopter in the Cheshire West region, so they were quite keen to get me on their books. So I went through the process and still went through some training courses, and they still let me carry on. And then they looked at my background and they still let me carry on. And then they put me forward for what's called matching, where they try to match you with a child that's appropriate for not just I'm right for them, but they're right for me. It works both ways to make sure I can offer them what they need. Eventually, after quite a long search, I got matched with John Paul. And in September 2011, he moved in with me after what they go through introductions, where we get to know him and he gets to know me and has to be signed off. So the actual pregnancy lasted about 18 months from the start of inception until the point he moved in as a 2.5-year-old. And he's now grown a little bit. He's now getting on. He'll be 12 in April. Quite a big lad now, where he was quite small when he came. He was under all of his milestones. He's a big brute of a lad now, and he's a big pain in my bum, but also the joy of my life.
Absolutely, the joy of him. You're the joy of his life.
I don't think he'd agree with that sometimes, but I do my best.
Oh, absolutely. I like it when he comes in to see you during our techie calls. It just lights up the room.
He likes to join every call. I'm on a lot of Zoom calls with my job, as you know, and he doesn't like to be left out. So he tends to make an appearance anytime he hears me on the phone or the Zoom call. He has to come in to see who it is. If he knows I'm going to be doing a call, he has to know who it is, because if it is someone he knows, like yourself, he will be in here. You can guarantee it, to say hello. He's not shy of Zoom calls and trying to be centre of attention.
Well, we love that. It makes us complete.
That's nice. He loves the attention, and obviously at the moment he's with lockdown, same as everybody. But for someone like JP, who I should have said, he is autistic and he has ADHD and he has some quite severe learning disabilities. But he is very social. He likes to be the centre of attention, so he craves that sort of limelight. So being in lockdown, where for a long time he wasn't able to see any school friends, he's currently at school 2 days a week, but he wasn't able to see anybody, and he was craving that. So Zoom has been a little bit of an outlet for him, so he could do those things.
Oh yes, and he lights up the room when he shouts "my friend" when I see him, and I can shout back. It just fills my soul.
I love seeing you. He loves seeing
Yeah.
you, and he recognises you, and he recognises any envelopes that come through from you. So he's that great.
Kev sends him nice posts, doesn't he?
He does. He said he's been great. He sent him I can't remember what it was called, the pantomime he wrote, and I read that out to JP. I had to help him because there was a lot of Geordie phrases that didn't get. Although JP is thinking of himself as a Geordie now, but he's like me, very mixed bag in terms of his accent. He tries to be Geordie, but he still says things like duck and donut. Duck and donut.
Lovely. So what have been your most joyous moments with him? And I know there'll be millions, but can you think of anything in particular?
I think when he achieves something, and bearing in mind he has got the disability, so what may be very normal for us maybe isn't for him, and he struggles to visualize things. So when he does achieve something different, and you can see in his face that he's got it and he's proud of himself and his face lights up. I think that's the bits that really makes it worthwhile for me, because he does get very frustrated with himself and other people, and he is very nervous and anxious about trying new things that he doesn't know how to do or thinks he doesn't know how to do. And it's my job really to try and push him that little bit further, because I know that he can do some of the things he thinks he can't and he won't try. And when he achieves that, that's when he gets the satisfaction, and that's where I get my satisfaction from as well. As from a selfish point of view, every time he achieves something different and gets that tick on the list, or even it's something as simple as going into a different environment. That like last year we went to, he loves Danny Adams, and I bought tickets to take him to see Danny Adams. He asked to go and see Danny Adams, and we went, and there was a big marquee in Corbridge, and he couldn't go through the door because inside the marquee it was dark. There was a lot of people. There were a lot of people talking, and with his autism and sensory issues, he couldn't go through the door. So we'd taken my nephew as well with his mum, and they'd gone in. So we ended up sitting for 2 hours in the car park in the rain, waiting for it to finish, and waiting for them as they were inside the show enjoying it. But then there's one other time where we did get to go to a pantomime at Theatre Royal, and he was anxious and nervous, but we got him. It was the Gangster Granny, and we got him indoors. And I'm not going to say a rude word, but it's coming. But we got him in there, and he would sit. He got him into the seat, and he would sit with his coat over his head because he couldn't deal with the anxieties. But then the play started, and one of the early words started with an F, and it was a bodily function, and that made him laugh, and the head came off, and he enjoyed the rest of the show. And that's the moments where he can overcome his own fears and enjoy something. That's the joyous bit for me.
It is, and it's only amplified because it's all for us, isn't it, in the sense of stretching ourselves, but he just has more hurdles.
It is, and I think it's hard for anybody to put themselves truly in somebody else's shoes, and everyone's got their own demons and their own issues, and it may be sensory issues, or it may be something which is diagnosed. It doesn't change who they are, it's just part of them, but it's not always easy to understand what's going on in their head at that time. And I get frustrated, and I find it hard sometimes I have to remind myself that actually, inside his head, he can't do these things, even no matter how much I want him to be able to enjoy these parts of life. Sometimes he can't, and I've got to accept that. And there are things which I would love, and things which I thought when I first started this journey, the picture 10 years ahead was very different to what it is now. I thought would be sort of out doing things, enjoying things, different experiences, trying to offer him part of my life. And a lot of that we haven't been able to do for various reasons. So we've had to adapt and learn and try and do the things that we can do.
Yes. What can we do with what we've got?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And you are probably one of the most resourceful people I've ever met about how to get around a situation and trying to make something from it.
I think it's the way my brain, I think it's when I work on websites, I'm always looking for different solutions. And I think that comes forward in my day-to-day life as well. I think it must frustrate a lot of people, because I think sometimes I see problems where there aren't problems to try and avoid them. So it's like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And it must drive people nuts, but that's just part of my personality.
Oh no, it's a huge help, and it's a safety mechanism for the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah. It's been useful in my life. It's got us out of it's managed to avoid quite a few problems over the years. But the other side of it is sometimes we have to take a risk, don't we, and to make things happen. And sometimes when you're risk averse, sometimes you miss out on stuff. So when I look back on my life, maybe there were moments in my life where actually, if I'd taken a risk, something would have gone different. Going down the adoption route was a massive risk for me, and something which I probably, if I look back now, or even before that, would have actually done it? Well, at some stage, I did press that button to get in touch and start the process. But I took that risk, and it changed my life. Some things better, some things worse, but we are where we are now, and and we have to make the best of what we've got and move it forward.
And it's about the level of risk, isn't it? And the depth of intention to try and do something good.
It is, and I wouldn't say. I mean, I wanted to give a chance to. It's funny when I look back on the adoption process. It's very difficult because they say it's a bit like buying a house, which sounds awful, but they send you profiles of children, and you look at those profiles, and you have to make a judgment call as to whether you can meet the needs of that child and offer them what they need, and that they could fit into your life. And and it's so difficult because you want to say yes to them, but then you look at them and you realize actually you can't meet all needs. I remember there was a little girl profile that was offered to me, and she had cerebral palsy, and it meant lots of trips to hospital and things like that, and it wasn't the right match for me. And she ended up going to a family somewhere else that had already had a child who was now growing up with cerebral palsy, and they had things like facilities, hydro pools, things like that for her, with a great match. So it was meant to be. So I think sometimes we make decisions in life, and when we look back, there was a reason for making that decision. And when I got matched with JP, something was right about that match, and it was meant to be. And I can't imagine now being matched with anybody else.
Well, that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And
also,
sorry.
And also the issue is that there is struggle, and there is adversity, and there is inequality, but there is joy in the process.
There is. I mean, if anyone asked me what the most frustrating thing in my life was, the answer would be JP. And if anyone asked me what the best thing in my life is, it would be JP, because you don't get one without the other. And that's true of probably anybody who's married or got kids, or it's probably the same answer on both ends.
We just want our people to have a comfortable life, don't we? Easy days and joyous moments, and not endless difficulties. So seeking the joy in that, I think, is very courageous as well.
We do, and I think also it's very hard. I think with any child, as a parent, you're trying to not only deal with their needs now, but also set them up for a good future. And with a child with the disabilities that JP's got, he's not going to have an easy future. He's not going to have that being able to go out and hopefully he'll be able to get a job and do things, but he's never going to find things easy. And it's trying to do the best to give them the future that they need within our own abilities. And I think also it's about asking for help as well, which I've been very reluctant to in the past, but I've had my fingers burned by not asking for help when I needed it, and I've tried to do everything myself. And I'm one person, and you can't do it all. And sometimes you need to ask for help. And I think that's a life lesson for me, certainly. And I know for other people who have felt the same way, where they've been reluctant to ask for that help, but when they have, it is there.
It is. And also sometimes you need to go to bed early.
I do. I am the world's worst. Yes, I must admit. My working day tends to be very fragmented, and I do tend to do a lot of things at night time. But hopefully that will change. I always say, you know what, I've been saying this for 30 years. So think the reality is I'm not going to change anymore. It's just part of my life, what I do. So I keep saying I'm going to change it.
Yes. So where are the places that give you most joy? Where do you find peace and hope and tranquility and restoration?
Right. Well, I don't know if you've had this answer before, but for me, it's actually under the ocean.
I knew. That's why I set you up.
I love, in my previous life, before JP, I was a scuba diver and did a lot of scuba diving. I was an instructor. I taught people to scuba dive. And one of my hobbies was going, I did trips to Egypt quite a lot. But towards the last few years of my diving, I started getting into shark diving and going to South Africa and being with great whites and tiger sharks and duskies. And I just find it so relaxing. It's when you're underwater and you're seeing all this amazing life just going by, looking at you, you know what they're thinking. You know, they're just thinking two things: food or enemy. That's all they want to know. But you're underwater, you know what, you leave all the troubles behind, leave all the problems behind. You're alone. You can't really talk, although divers do have a weird way of communicating. But you're underwater, your own thoughts, you're watching stuff, and for that time you're sort of switched off from everything. You're relaxed. You've got to try and relax because it helps with the breathing. If you're not relaxed, you breathe heavier and you have less time underwater. So it makes sense to relax. But I love being underwater. I love seeing that life. It's another world that not everyone's lucky enough to see, and it's just amazing. But the sharks underwater, it's just relaxing. That's the place for me.
That is an answer, Sir Pete. Very impressive. And now you have something lovely to show us, Pete, that is a manifestation of your joy.
It is, yeah. I just wanted to share. So when I look back, when I think about JP, and I think about him a lot, obviously, sometimes I think about, I feel guilty about how much we've done or how much I feel like we haven't done. But then every year on his birthday, I do a picture book. And what I do is I go through my pictures, my phones, and we create a memory book every year. So he's got one every year since he came to me. We've got a memory book showing the things that we've done over the last year. And when I look at that, it makes me realize actually not doing such a bad job. You know, we are doing things. No matter how much he moans, he complains, actually when you look at this is what makes the difference. And it makes me realize actually, you know, and I've got one of these for every year for the last sort of 9 years. So we've still got 2020 to do, but even with lockdown, we still achieved quite a lot. And I think we all, if we look back and try and forget about the bad things or the things that made us unhappy and look at the things that made us smile. And this book makes me smile. And I think that's what's important.
Oh, it's the upper side of the tapestry, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got my one as well, actually. I've got Dad's memory book as well.
Oh, the best.
This is what he got me for Christmas, which I sort of made myself. But all my pictures from Facebook that I've put on there over the years, and they did a thing at the end of the year, and it's actually it's a book made up of all of my images from Facebook over the years. So I've got my own. I've only got the one memory book, but it's important to me. And JP has one every year, and I'll keep doing that every year as well.
Well, that's a lesson to us all, isn't it?
Everyone does it in their own way. There's not a right or wrong thing. Everyone does it in their own way. But that's, I think, looking back and looking at the things that make you smile makes a massive difference to our life.
It does, because you can look at it and it's evidence that you've done well.
It's evidence we've done something.
Yeah. And also, my favourite image that you've ever put up, you always seem to have enormous sized screens when you go out.
You know what? When I look for the photographs for JP, I have to try and find some where he's not eating, because there's so many pictures of where he's eating, and he's eating a lot at the moment. But yeah, he does like his ice creams. And
I think you like them too, though.
I do, but I'm on a diet and I'm not allowed. Well, I have found a sneaky way to get vanilla ice creams into the diet, so I am allowed small ones, but not big ones like JP.
Lovely. And how do we conclude then? Tell us about the joy in your work.
The joy in my work. I mean, I love my work. I mean, my previous life, I spent 27 years working for Barclays Bank. So I joined when I was 5, obviously, because I'm not that old. 27 years working for Barclays. and I loved it. And you know, I would never say anything bad against them. They gave me a career, they've given me a lifestyle. You know, I've been able to pay my bills, and I left. I took redundancy 6 years ago, and partly that was because I'd sort of come to the end of the road with Barclays. I'd probably taken my role there as far as I could, and partly because JP's needs was so much that I couldn't really do a corporate role where I'm in an office 9 to 5. It didn't really work for me anymore, so I had to adapt. So when the opportunity came up, and I looked at my career, I looked at my life, and tried to work out where I was happiest. And where I was happiest was when I was doing technical work, but working with people and helping people to achieve their goals. So that's where I started up Ridgetek, and 6 years on, we're still going. But I think the biggest difference between now and then is the ability to make a difference and help businesses, help people, and help them achieve their goals. Where, no offense to the corporate world, but quite often you're a very small cog in a very big engine, and you do your part, but you don't tend to get the satisfaction that you get from a small business and working with small businesses and organizations and charities and things like that. And that's the big difference for me, and that's why I enjoy being self-employed.
Oh, well, you do it so well, and you look after so many people so graciously, and you are the calmest person in the tech world I have ever encountered. Nothing's ever a bother, so we appreciate all that you do. JP absolutely adores you, and we adore him, and we're very grateful to have had you today. Thank you for all your inspiration, your honourability, and your joy.
Thank you, Dr. Rebecca.